Someone disrespects you in front of other people. Maybe they make a sarcastic comment. Maybe they ignore your message on purpose. Maybe they look at you as if you are not worth taking seriously. And instantly, something inside you moves. Your chest tightens. Your mind starts racing. You begin replaying the moment over and over again. What did they mean by that? Why did they say it like that? Do they think they are better than you? Should you respond? Should you prove them wrong? And even if you say nothing, even if your face remains calm, inside you are no longer free. That person has entered your mind without permission. They are not in the room anymore, but they are still controlling your energy. They are still shaping your mood. They are still deciding the quality of your day. Now ask yourself honestly, how many people are living inside your mind rent-free? The coworker who made you feel small. The ex who made you question your worth. The parent whose approval you still secretly chase. The stranger online who left one cruel comment and somehow had the power to make you doubt everything. Most people believe they are reacting to the world. But that is not the full truth. You are not reacting to what happened. You are reacting to what it touched inside you. This is the uncomfortable truth Carl Jung tried to reveal. The world is not merely attacking you. In many moments, the world is exposing you. It is showing you the wounds you have not healed, the fears you have not faced, the insecurities you have hidden so deeply that you forgot they were still controlling your life. If a simple insult can destroy your peace, the insult is not the real problem. The problem is that your peace was never truly yours. If being ignored makes you feel worthless, the silence is not the real problem. The problem is that some part of you is still begging the outside world to confirm that you matter. If failure makes you feel like your life is over, failure is not the real problem. The problem is that your identity has been built on outcomes you cannot control. And this is why some people remain calm in situations that would break others. It is not because they have easier lives. It is not because they never feel pain. It is not because they are emotionless or cold or detached from reality. It is because they have learned the one skill most people never develop. They have learned how to stop giving the outside world authority over their inner world. That is what this video is really about. Not pretending you do not care. Not suppressing your emotions. Not becoming arrogant, numb, or distant. But becoming so deeply rooted in yourself that the chaos of other people can no longer pull you out of your center. Carl Jung believed that until you bring the unconscious into awareness, it will silently control your choices, your reactions, your relationships, and even the story you call your destiny. So today, we are going to go beneath the surface. We are going to look at why people trigger you. Why control makes you weaker. Why emotional reactions reveal your shadow. And how to become the kind of person who cannot be manipulated by praise, insult, rejection, attention, or silence. But be warned, what you are about to hear is not designed to comfort your ego. It is designed to free you from it. If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. Let us begin with the first hard truth. You are not disturbed by events. You are disturbed by the meaning you give them. Two people can experience the same moment and walk away as if they lived through completely different realities. One person receives criticism and feels destroyed. Another receives the same criticism and becomes curious. One person is rejected and concludes, "I am not enough." Another person is rejected and thinks, "This was not aligned with me." One person fails and collapses into shame. Another fails and studies the lesson. The event may be similar, but the inner interpretation is completely different. This is where most people lose their freedom. They do not see reality. They see reality through the filter of their wounds. If you were raised to believe that love must be earned, then every moment of distance feels like abandonment. If you were constantly criticized growing up, then even gentle feedback can feel like an attack. If you were made to feel invisible, then being ignored does not feel small. It feels like proof of the story you already fear is true. And this is the secret. The world does not need to create your pain from nothing. It only needs to touch the pain that is already there. This is why Jung's idea of the shadow is so important. The shadow is not some evil monster hiding inside you. It is everything you pushed out of awareness because it was too painful, too shameful, too unacceptable, or too frightening to face. Your need for approval can live in the shadow. Your fear of being ordinary can live in the shadow. Your anger, jealousy, insecurity, resentment, loneliness, and hunger for recognition can all live in the shadow. And what remains unconscious does not disappear. It controls you from behind the curtain. So when someone insults you and you feel rage, the question is not simply, why are they so disrespectful? The deeper question is, what part of me needed them to see me differently? When someone ignores you and you feel crushed, the question is not only, why are they treating me this way? The deeper question is, what part of me still believes my value depends on being chosen? When someone succeeds and you feel bitterness, the question is not, why do they have what I want? The deeper question is, what dream have I abandoned in myself? This is how the outside world becomes a mirror. And most people hate mirrors. They would rather blame the mirror than look at the face reflected in it. They say, that person made me angry. But did they create the anger, or did they reveal it? They say, that situation ruined my peace. But did it ruin your peace, or did it expose that your peace was dependent on conditions? They say, life is unfair. But sometimes what they really mean is, life did not obey the story I created in my mind. This is not to say that people cannot mistreat you. They can. This is not to say that painful things do not happen. They do. This is not to say that you should accept disrespect, abuse, betrayal, or manipulation. But there is a difference between responding from clarity and reacting from a wound. A reaction is automatic. A response is conscious. A reaction comes from the shadow. A response comes from awareness. A reaction tries to protect the ego. A response protects your peace. And the distance between reaction and response is where your freedom begins. But there is another layer. Most people are not only controlled by their wounds. They are controlled by their addiction to control. They want people to treat them a certain way. They want life to unfold according to plan. They want outcomes to validate their effort. They want love to be predictable. They want success to arrive on schedule. They want every uncertain thing to become safe before they are willing to feel calm. And because the world never obeys perfectly, they suffer constantly. They suffer when someone does not text back. They suffer when plans change. They suffer when people misunderstand them. They suffer when they are not praised. They suffer when the future is unclear. But look carefully, the suffering often does not come from the event itself. It comes from the demand that reality should be different from what it is. This is the illusion of control. You think you need to control the world in order to feel safe. But the more you try to control the world, the more enslaved you become to it. The moment you need someone's approval, they own part of your emotional state. The moment you need everyone to understand you, misunderstanding becomes a weapon against you. The moment you need success to happen in one specific way, every delay feels like a personal attack. The moment you need life to be fair before you can be peaceful, you have handed your peace to chaos. This is why the strongest people are not the ones who control everything. They are the ones who do not need everything to be controlled. They move through uncertainty without collapsing. They hear criticism without becoming defensive. They lose what they wanted without losing who they are. They experience rejection without turning it into an identity. They understand something most people never learn. Control over the external world is limited. Control over your perception is power. This does not mean you become passive. It means you stop confusing resistance with strength. There is a strange paradox in life. The more desperately you cling to something, the more fragile you become around it. If you cling to being respected, disrespect will destroy you. If you cling to being liked, disapproval will terrify you. If you cling to being seen as successful, failure will feel like death. If you cling to being loved, distance will feel like abandonment. Whatever you cannot live without becomes the chain around your neck. So the question is not, how do I make everyone respect me? The question is, why does disrespect have access to my nervous system? The question is not, how do I make sure no one rejects me? The question is, why do I abandon myself when someone else does not choose me? The question is not, how do I avoid failure? The question is, why have I made failure mean that I am worthless? This is where real inner work begins. Not in controlling people, but in reclaiming the parts of yourself you outsourced to them. If what you're hearing resonates with you, you'll find real value in my ebooks. Beyond the Shadow breaks down Jung's core ideas, while Dialogues with the Unconscious gives you a 30-day path to apply them in your life. Both are linked in the pinned comment. Now let us go deeper. The reason you react so quickly is because your mind is trying to defend an identity. Most people think they are defending truth, but often, they are defending the image they have built of themselves. If you see yourself as intelligent, being called foolish feels unbearable. If you see yourself as strong, being seen as weak feels humiliating. If you see yourself as kind, being accused of selfishness feels like an attack on your entire self-concept. But here is the trap. The more fragile your identity is, the more easily the world can control you. If a single sentence can threaten who you believe you are, then your identity is not rooted. It is negotiated moment by moment through other people's opinions. This is why some people are constantly exhausted. They are not just living. They are managing an image. They are trying to appear calm, successful, attractive, intelligent, spiritual, confident, healed, unbothered. But inside, they are secretly terrified that someone will expose the insecurity underneath. So they react. They defend. They explain. They justify. They overthink. They attack back. They withdraw. They try to win the invisible courtroom inside their mind. But the truly untouchable person does not need to win every trial. Because they are no longer on trial. Imagine someone calls you a failure. If you have made peace with your own unfinished journey, the insult has nowhere to land. Imagine someone calls you weak. If you have faced your vulnerability honestly, the word does not control you. Imagine someone misunderstands your intentions. If you are clear within yourself, misunderstanding may be inconvenient, but it is not identity-shattering. This is what it means to become psychologically free. You stop needing the world to constantly confirm you. And when you no longer need constant confirmation, manipulation loses its power. Because manipulation depends on access points. A manipulator needs your fear of rejection, your hunger for approval, your need to be seen as good, your terror of being alone, your shame around failure, your desperation to be chosen. But once you begin reclaiming those places within yourself, the strings are cut. Someone can try to provoke you, but you do not move. Someone can try to flatter you, but you do not become intoxicated. Someone can try to shame you, but you do not collapse. Someone can walk away, and although it may hurt, you do not lose your center. This is not because you do not feel. It is because you no longer worship every feeling as truth. That sentence matters. You no longer worship every feeling as truth. A feeling can be real without being accurate. You can feel rejected without actually being worthless. You can feel afraid without being in danger. You can feel behind without your life being over. You can feel disliked without needing to change yourself. Emotional maturity begins when you can say, something is happening inside me, but I do not have to become it. Anger is here, but I am not anger. Fear is here, but I am not fear. Shame is here, but I am not shame. The storm is moving through the sky, but I am the sky. This is the untouchable mind. Not a mind without emotion. A mind that is larger than emotion. But how do you actually build this? Not by repeating affirmations you do not believe. Not by pretending you are healed. Not by acting superior to people who still trigger you. You build it through observation. The next time you are triggered, do not immediately ask, how do I get rid of this feeling? Ask, what is this feeling trying to reveal? This one question changes everything. Because now the trigger is not your enemy. It is information. Someone criticizes you, and you feel defensive. Pause. What exactly are you defending? Your competence? Your image? Your fear that they might be right? Someone ignores you, and you feel anxious. Pause. What story did your mind create in the silence? That you are unwanted? Forgotten? Replaceable? Someone succeeds, and you feel jealousy. Pause. What desire have you buried? What part of your own potential are you refusing to claim? This is shadow work in real time. You are no longer running from the uncomfortable emotion. You are turning toward it with consciousness. And what you observe consciously begins to lose unconscious power over you. But there is a deeper discipline required. You must stop feeding the reaction. Most people experience a trigger for 3 seconds, and then they spend 3 hours keeping it alive. They replay the conversation. They imagine better responses. They create arguments in their head. They collect evidence. They tell themselves stories that make the other person worse and themselves more innocent. And every repetition deepens the emotional groove. Your brain does not know the difference between the original event and the mental movie you keep replaying. Each time you replay it, your nervous system reacts again. Your body produces the same tension. Your mood darkens. Your mind becomes more certain. This is how people become prisoners of events that lasted only a moment. The event ended, but their mind kept it alive. So if you want to become untouchable, you must learn to interrupt the movie. Not suppress the feeling. Interrupt the story. There is a difference. Suppression says, I should not feel this. Awareness says, I feel this, but I will not build a prison out of it. When the mind starts replaying, bring yourself back to the body. Feel your breath. Feel your feet. Relax your jaw. Loosen your hands. Name the emotion without becoming it. This is anger. This is shame. This is fear. This is the old wound of not feeling chosen. The moment you name it clearly, you create distance from it. And in that distance, choice returns. This is why awareness is power. Not because it instantly removes pain, but because it stops pain from becoming your master. Now here comes the hard truth most people avoid. You cannot become untouchable while still secretly wanting to be validated by everyone. You cannot become free while still designing your personality around being approved. You cannot become grounded while still needing every person to understand your intentions, respect your path, admire your growth, and agree with your choices. At some point, you must accept that being misunderstood is part of being alive. Some people will not see your heart clearly. Some people will reduce you to their projection. Some people will dislike you for reasons that have more to do with their wounds than your character. Some people will leave. Some people will judge. Some people will talk. And if every one of those things has the power to pull you out of yourself, then you are not living your life. You are being edited by other people's perceptions. Freedom requires a kind of inner loneliness at first. Because when you stop performing for approval, you may feel the emptiness that performance used to cover. When you stop chasing validation, you may discover how deeply you were addicted to it. When you stop reacting, you may realize that drama used to give you a sense of identity. This is why many people say they want peace, but they secretly keep choosing chaos. Chaos distracts them from themselves. Drama gives them someone to blame. Reaction makes them feel powerful for a moment. But peace requires responsibility. Peace asks you to sit with yourself without the noise. Peace asks you to stop making everyone else the villain in the story of your emotional life. Peace asks you to admit, something in me is participating in my suffering. That is a difficult sentence. But it is also the doorway to freedom. Because if something in you is participating, then something in you can stop. You may not control who insults you, but you can stop turning insults into identity. You may not control who rejects you, but you can stop using rejection as evidence against your worth. You may not control uncertainty, but you can stop demanding certainty before you allow yourself to breathe. This is how you take your power back. Not all at once, but moment by moment. A person says something sharp. You pause. A situation does not go your way. You breathe. A fear rises. You observe. An old wound speaks. You listen, but you do not obey. And slowly, the world begins to feel different. Not because it becomes softer, but because you become less available to be controlled by it. People may still be rude, but their rudeness no longer defines your day. Plans may still fail, but failure no longer becomes proof that your life is cursed. People may still misunderstand you, but misunderstanding no longer forces you to betray yourself. This is emotional sovereignty. This is the quiet power of a person who has stopped handing their nervous system to the world. And the strange thing is, people can feel it. They may not be able to explain it, but they sense when someone is no longer easily moved. There is a different gravity around a person who does not chase approval. There is a different silence in someone who does not need to win every argument. There is a different power in someone who can be kind without being needy, firm without being aggressive, open without being desperate, and calm without pretending. That kind of person becomes difficult to manipulate, because they are not hungry in the places where manipulators feed. They are not starving for praise. They are not terrified of silence. They are not addicted to drama. They are not waiting for the world to give them permission to feel whole. This is what Jung's work points toward. Individuation, becoming whole, not becoming perfect, not becoming superior, but becoming conscious of the hidden forces inside you so they no longer control your life from the dark. The more conscious you become, the less reactive you become. The less reactive you become, the less controllable you become. The less controllable you become, the freer you are. So here is the practice. For the next 7 days, do not try to avoid triggers. Study them. Every time something disturbs you, write down 3 things. First, what happened? Second, what did I feel? Third, what story did my mind attach to it? That third question is where the gold is. Because the story is usually the real wound. They ignored me, becomes, I do not matter. They criticized me, becomes, I am not good enough. They succeeded, becomes, I am falling behind. They left, becomes, I am unlovable. But once you see the story, you can challenge it. You can say, this is an old belief, not an ultimate truth. You can say, this feeling is familiar, but I do not have to repeat the old pattern. You can say, I am allowed to feel this without becoming controlled by it. This is how emotional freedom is built. Not through one dramatic breakthrough, but through hundreds of small moments where you choose awareness over reaction. And eventually, something inside you changes. You stop needing to answer every insult. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop chasing people whose distance activates your wounds. You stop confusing intensity with connection. You stop calling chaos passion. You stop calling attachment love. You stop calling control safety. And for the first time, you begin to feel what real peace is. Not the peace that comes when everything goes your way. That is fragile peace. Real peace is the kind that remains when things do not go your way, and you still do not abandon yourself. That is the peace no one can take from you. That is the mind that cannot be easily touched. And this is the final truth. Nothing can control you unless it has something inside you to hold on to. So do not hate your triggers. They are showing you where you are still not free. Do not run from your reactions. They are pointing to the parts of you that need consciousness. Do not blame the world for every disturbance. Sometimes the disturbance is the doorway. The insult shows you where you still seek approval. The rejection shows you where you still abandon yourself. The failure shows you where your worth was attached to achievement. The uncertainty shows you where you confused control with safety. Every trigger is a teacher. Every reaction is a message. Every emotional storm is asking you to remember that you are not the storm. You are the awareness watching it pass. And when you truly understand this, life changes. You no longer move through the world begging for it to be gentle. You become grounded enough to meet it as it is. You no longer need everyone to like you. You like yourself enough to survive their disapproval. You no longer need every outcome to validate you. You know who you are before the result arrives. This is not arrogance. This is inner freedom. This is not coldness. This is emotional mastery. This is not detachment from life. This is the ability to participate in life without being possessed by it. Now I want to hear from you. Write in the comments, "I take my power back." Not as a slogan, as a commitment. A commitment that from this moment forward, you will stop giving every person, every opinion, every rejection, and every failure the authority to define your inner world. And don't stop here. The next video is an essential continuation of this journey. Because once you understand how your reactions control you, the next step is learning how your shadow secretly shapes the people you attract, the patterns you repeat, and the life you keep calling fate. Keep watching. I'll see you there.